Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to this mini mastermind group. I've called this the difference between transformation and change, a question I'm really interested in understanding more deeply as a transformational coach. You know, I'm a coach, but ultimately I do try to achieve a transformational impact on my clients, working one-to-one or in groups. And I've got a feel for that. And I thought it'd be really helpful to get some like-minded coaches together just to have a conversation about what transformation means to you and what you see as the differences between change and transformation. So my name's Lawrence Knott. For viewers out there, I am a transformational coach, and historically I've also been a hypnotherapist. I coach people who want to make a big change in their life. And in some way are stuck and they don't know what it is that's holding them back, but they know they want something more in life. And I love working with people that really have a motivation to achieve that change, and have their eyes open to maybe seeing life in a different way and understanding their own psychology in a different way. So that's me. I'm just going to let everyone introduce themselves and hand over to Nico.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. Hi, everyone. My name is Nico Leppanen, and I'm also a coach and a blogger and a speaker and an event organizer, and I do a bit of everything. I live in Finland right now. I share the three principles inside out paradigm understanding here with people. It's the community is quite small in Finland, and there hasn't been much content being put out. So I'm doing my small share in sharing this. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for inviting me to this mini group. This is a topic that I've been also kind of reflecting on a lot recently, and I'm just curious to see what comes up, what comes to our minds, what can be share here tonight.
Great, thanks, Nico. Over to Mandy.
Unmute. Hi guys. Sorry, frog. I'm Mandy Spray, and I guess I'm also a coach, although I'm still coming to terms with that title. I do teach the three principles, and my particular, I suppose it's anybody really that wants to know more. I'll share this understanding with anybody who's prepared to listen, but my kind of target group, I suppose, is people who are working in health, education or social care, or complementary therapists. It's people who are helping others directly. So I'm particularly interested in working with those groups. Historically, I'm originally trained as a nurse, and then I trained as a homeopath and an EFT practitioner. So I've always been kind of interested in energy. And energy medicines and transformation. So this topic's just great for me because I've seen people transform, seen their lives change through this understanding the three principles. So I know we're going to talk more about that in a minute, but when I saw that name and that word in the title, I just thought, no, I want to be part of this. So also globally, I see this as world-changing, this understanding. So not just transforming people on an individual basis, but actually transforming communities, transforming worlds. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of this chat. So that's kind of me. Okay.
Brilliant, Mandy. Thank you very much. Moving on to Sandy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandy. I'm a coach and transformative coach. Doing the basically explaining the way our mind works and everything. So the basis are the three principles as well. I used to be a therapist. I used to be a TFT practitioner, NLP practitioner as well, and I've done hypnosis and everything, and energy therapy as well. But now I've stopped doing everything. I've stopped doing all of that to concentrate mainly on the understanding of how our mind works, because I've seen so many transformations with that understanding and within myself as well. So I've just decided to just concentrate on this because it makes sense for me to do this. And I'm mainly helping people who've been through divorce and separation, and also people who've got very low self-esteem and confidence issues. So that's what I'm mainly doing in English. I'm doing loads of things in French as well. So yeah, I'm really intrigued with what is going to happen tonight. Very interested in the subject and see what happens.
Great, thanks, Andy. And finally, over to Sue.
Hi everyone, I'm Sue Quigley. It kind of feels a bit strange now to talk about what I'm doing because I don't really know what I'm doing. I've got a coaching business. I'm a trained coach and hypnotherapist and workshop facilitator. And that was all going great up until a couple of months ago when suddenly things stopped making a lot of sense. So I'm kind of, I'm in the middle of a transformation myself. But what I'm finding is that what I used to think I knew about change and transformation and coaching has all kind of been thrown up in the air a little bit. And I haven't really made sense of it. So I'm kind of in the middle of that right now. But I was always very, my other understanding of transformation versus change, I used to see them as quite different things. I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but so as far as my business was, it was about helping people to transform themselves, to transform their lives, but they had to have a willingness to want to change. But I still, in my mind, viewed those two as slightly different objectives. But I can speak a bit more about that. But where am I going? I want to do much more. I need to have more of a deeper grounding of the principles. I know it's getting there, but at the moment I'm not sure where I'm going with it. I look at training and workshop facilitation as, I think, being more my way forward now, rather than one-to-one coaching, more one-to-many. But it's all good.
Great, thanks very much, Sue. Okay. There's some real themes there about what you guys were saying about witnessing transformations. And that would be really interesting because in these kind of conversations, real examples of what you've seen for me is, really helpful for understanding what you see as a transformation. Something, as I would see it, as something happening on a deeper level. When I looked up the dictionary definitions, of change, it's just becoming different. So a transformation is some kind of change, but it's quite a small thing. It could be a big thing, but it captures, all manner of change, if you like. Whereas transformation, it defines it as making a marked change in the form, nature, or appearance. It's almost like changing in its character. And for me, as I sort of apply that definition to the way I work as a coach and the experiences I've had working with people, this change is irreversible. It involves a change in understanding, and if you like, a shift that by knowing something different and seeing life in a very different way, and for me it is about that bigger impact, and that's why it is transformational. There's no going back. Just like the paradigm shifts that have happened in science over the past centuries, the old way of doing things no longer makes sense. There's no logic to it. It would be completely irrational to do it the old way. So just like a transformation within someone's psychology, those old habits, those old ways of thinking, whatever it is that we thought about ourselves, the stories we told about ourselves, they just don't make sense anymore because of that bigger transformation on a deep level of who we are has had that impact, and it's changed everything. It's almost like nothing is unaffected when transformation happens on a personal level. So I'm interested to hear from some of you guys about what you've seen as transformation. So anyone got any thoughts on, some of the stories you've heard, or some of the things you've witnessed with clients? Mandy, you mentioned you've seen transformation happen.
There were a couple of things that came to mind, and one is for myself, which was the going from a smoker to a non-smoker, literally overnight. And the reason I'm bringing that up is from what you were saying about it suddenly didn't make sense anymore. So it didn't feel like a change. Change to me is just changing direction, and often change, you change your clothes, but you'll change back again. It feels kind of more temporary, whereas a transformation to me feels like world change, really. So I moved from being a smoker to a non-smoker, and there wasn't any effort. I wasn't planning to not have any more cigarettes. It just kind of, that's how it panned out. So that was something for me, but I'm also thinking of clients that I've worked with, one lady in particular. And it's really interesting when you can see the change quite often as somebody transforms or has an insight, is another way of describing it. This lady transformed in an instant, and I can't remember what it was that kind of resonated with her. But basically she changed from thinking or knowing that her adult son, who had a profound learning disability, was broken, into knowing that he wasn't broken. And it just happened so suddenly, and her whole demeanour changed. So it's almost like years dropped off her. She was kind of just wide-eyed with amazement and kind of just needed to be very quiet for a while. But her world changed in a second, and it's been the same. And that's the other thing. I think this transformation is sustainable. It stays with you. So she can't go back to thinking that her son is broken, because it no longer makes any sense. So that's a couple of examples.
That's really nice, Mandy. So what you're saying, it's that shift in understanding. That's why it can appear so quickly. You're seeing something. It's almost like the clouds have parted, and you're seeing something real, or seeing something without, all those layers of thinking around something. And it is amazing how it can happen in an instant. Yeah. And I love what you said about it being, there's no effort. It's almost like, it has just happened. Whereas the process of change, for us who've worked in therapy and used positive psychology and understand how, a daily practice, a daily ritual can help someone move towards a change in lifestyle, a change in self-perception, beliefs about themselves. It's this gradual process, and it's step by step. And it can sometimes feel like hard work for both me as the practitioner, therapist, and also the person involved. People I know have had CBT, and CBT can help a lot of people. But my overriding impression of it, it's hard work. And I think it can be,
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because what Sandy was saying about the sort of TFT and hypnotherapy, and I left that behind, and now I'm finding it really attractive again. And it's quite interesting. I didn't expect that to happen, but I've actually, not as tools, but just as things that make sense. So what I might have said a couple of years ago was that I had a kind of transformation where using those therapies didn't make sense anymore. But now they're beginning to make sense, but in a very different way, if that makes sense. So it's not that I've gone back to the way I was using them 4 years ago. It's that, I suppose, following that transformation, I'm seeing them differently. So it's funny because transformation is such a formless thing, really. So it's to me, it's very much about the feeling. And that's why it's quite hard to describe it, but things feel different. They don't just look different, they feel different. We show up differently. Yeah.
Absolutely. So something about, it's like, you know, sometimes we can have an insight or a leap in understanding, a shift, and it's almost like, you know, I've seen it in clients, they haven't got the words, but the feeling's there. There has been observable shift.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes finding the form, there's a gestation period. And I know I personally, when that happens to me, and as I've deepened my understanding of the principles and how my psychology works, I just sit with it. I don't need to do anything with it. I might want to turn it into form at some point so I can share it and understand it within the context of my life. But I know that good feeling. I know that difference on a deeper level. Does anyone else want to come in on maybe some of your personal experiences and that personal transformation? Sandy?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just at a very deep level. That's really, really, it's very different from, you know, I've been through loads of changes in the last few years. And this last year, since I started, you know, understanding the principles, I mean, the transformation was just effortless. You know, it's just, there's nothing you have to do. There was no practice or anything like this, which was great. Because I also had in mind that all my life had been really, really shy, extremely shy, very, very low confidence and everything. So I've worked on it. I was working on it, and it changed. It started to change, and I was feeling better in myself, actually. But then something happened about a year ago, when it felt like, you know, I don't know how it happened. That's the thing about this, you know, but it felt like I just woke up and all the thoughts about myself, about who I thought I was, had just disappeared in a way. You know, so I was just able to stand up and talk to a group of people without fearing, without, you know, with being able to engage with them without too much thinking about myself during the talk or during the workshop or that sort of thing. You know, it just was flowing, really. And it's something that's never happened to me, because if you just said to me maybe a year and a half ago, right, do you want to do a talk? Do you want to do a workshop? No, I'm just not going to go there. You know, it's just not for me, really not for me. But then, I mean, it seems like it was really sudden, but I didn't do anything about this. I didn't work on it. I didn't practice anything. It felt like, I just woke up and I was a different person in a way, you know, and it was very, very intense. I mean, very surprising, I must say. Yeah. That's one of my experiences. It's just one of them. Yeah.
That, and what I heard there, and I'd love to hear from Nico or Sue on this, that the idea that it happens suddenly, but it's almost like by implication, and it's like this ripple effect. I've got this quantum physics kind of metaphor in my mind that, you know, it's non-local. Something happening there can impact over there, or over there, or over there, and it's not that linear process. So I'm running a marathon on Sunday. I've done just enough training to enjoy it and get around, but not quite enough. But I put in the training and I know what I'm going to get out. And it's a very straightforward process. Do the right training. I give myself a very good chance to have a good run on Sunday. If I don't do the training, make it more difficult for myself. And from what I've seen, you know, personal development, a lot of change involves, putting in the hard work. And sometimes that can be a good thing to do. But actually, a transformation, by looking in one area of your life and seeing something different, it can have that bigger impact, and you're just not expecting it. Any thoughts there, guys, about just that unexpected change or sort of transformation?
I haven't got so much a comment about that, but What I find interesting is that when you were saying, I'd got in my head, I hadn't read what you put as your definition between them this morning, but in my head I knew what the difference was between change and transformation for me. And I think if you'd have posed the question to me 6 months ago is, where have you seen transformation? I've got lots of clients I could reel off and client stories. But it's really weird that sitting here now, I don't see it anymore as a transformation. I just saw I did some change work with them. And it all seems very mechanical. My coaching was very NLP based. And I just see that now as being just, rather than transformative, more what it was change work. And Mandy said about transformation being sustainable. And that is the difference for me. Transformation is like an emergence almost, that once it's there, it doesn't go away. Whereas change is more conscious, more doing, fixing, masking almost. But it's weird how I've not woke up and felt different, but when I look back, it's all a little bit different. And especially as I say, I'm seeing things in my own work, in my coaching, it's not feeling right, it's not making sense. And now when you asked about having seen transformation, in my head I went to my old memories, but then I thought, that's not transformation. So I don't know.
That's what one thing I really picked up on what you said there. So it's just what I heard is that transformation has a simplicity to it. It's what Keith Blevins would talk about when you deepen your understanding of how our experience is working. It is subtractive. It's ruthlessly subtractive. And yeah, transformation in the context of the work we do, there's an evolution taking place, a personal evolution in your thinking. And for me, I don't know if this is right, it feels like there's greater simplicity. It feels that if I'm doing change work with someone, that is an additive approach. And maybe it can simplify things, but maybe it's just making things more complicated and adding more layers. It's not to say that you can't achieve big impact doing that kind of work, but is it the most efficient route? Is it aligned with our true nature, if you like? Just like in nature seems to do things with the innate intelligence that is powering whatever it is behind all living things. It does it in the most efficient, and if you like, there's a logic to nature. And maybe what we're really pointing towards when we work with people is, something that has an efficiency and something that is just more natural. And that's where less effort is involved, because it has a logic to it and a simplicity. Any thoughts?
Can I say something to that? Because I think for me, the transformation comes from a different place. It comes from kind of within. So it's actually, change feels like an application, but also something that we do outside of ourselves. Whereas for me, transformation comes from it's kind of an unknown place. We don't plan it. And that's why it's not hard work, although it can feel like hard work sometimes. And I'll tell you the story in a minute, but to me, it feels like it comes from that unknown place, and it comes when we're ready for it. So we don't necessarily have any control over it. And it can happen in very sort of, I suppose, unexpected moments. And also it's not for us to look for it in our clients. It's not for us to hope that our clients get insights or transformations, because they're going to bubble away anyway without us even knowing. And I think most of us don't have the sort of Hollywood transformations or Hollywood insights. Mine have been kind of just creeping along. So I think there's a subtle difference, that transformation comes from within, from the formless, from the whatever we want to call it.
That's lovely. And what I'm hearing there, I'd love to hear from Nico on this around when it's something you can't control, it is about pointing someone in a direction. Whereas if I'm doing some change work, it's like I said about I'll put some inputs and we'll do some change stuff and something else is going to come out at the other end. And we could have a pretty good guess of what's going to come out at the other end. Greater confidence, more self-belief, a reinterpretation of your childhood and all the consequences throughout your life, and therefore we can lead a life with more ease. Yeah, actually the transformation coming from that deeper place, we're not quite sure what's going to emerge, but we can be confident that what does emerge is going to be big in terms of the impact, or maybe small in terms of the impact. But going back to all your guys' points about, there's a permanence to it, there's a sustainability, because it has come from that deeper place. It's almost emerged of its own accord. Nico, any thoughts on that?
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Yeah, I mean, I think there's one thing that's kind of worth mentioning, and that's that everyone has had moments of transformation in their lives. And transformations, they're part of the design. When we're growing up, we're just we don't do anything to in a sense to become an adult or to grow up. It just kind of happens, and we let it happen. We don't think about it. When a child is growing up, that child doesn't think about where I'm going here or what am I becoming that much. So it's just that transformation. What that implies for me is just a deepening understanding of how life works, how things work. So we get a deeper understanding of something, and then, without no effort, there's a transformation which brings us to a new level. We can talk about levels of consciousness. Because for me, transformation is a jump in a level of consciousness, which again is just an understanding of who we really are and how life works. And that's not something that we can consciously do. We can't decide to have a leap in our consciousness. It's something you can't order. It's not something that you can get in a nice box or in a book or in a, video or something. Like, watch this video and you will have a rise in your level of consciousness and you will transform. I think the only thing, I guess, what we are kind of exploring here is the kind of transformation which is we can call profound transformation. So where really our experience of life becomes a lot different, and we start to see things in a whole new light. So when we're talking about that kind of profound transformations, of course, the chances of that happening, obviously there's a chance for that to happen in everyone. And we can talk about Sydney Banks, who was a welder, who had this profound, huge jump in his level of consciousness. And he hadn't done he didn't know anything. He was great, well, he wasn't well educated or anything. He hadn't read any books about spirituality and that kind of things. And still he saw something that profoundly changed his life. So transformations like that can happen. There's the potential. That's comes with life. That potential there. But of course, there's I guess there's ways to point yourself towards something like a catalyst. which in this case we can talk about, like, we as the coach are the kind of catalyst for that transformation. So it's not us that make the transformation happen in our clients or whoever, but we can point them towards a source that has the potential to help them see something in a way that transforms their lives. And also there's something, I watched a video about George Bransky, and he shared a great metaphor, which is that when we transform, when our level of consciousness rises, like all boats rises with the tide. It's the expression that he used, and I really like that because from my own experience, when there's a transformation on a more profound level, it goes all across the board. It's not like, okay, something changes here or in one area of life, but then I kind of the same patterns are still there in other areas. No, it's an upgrade from within.
That's wonderful stuff. There's so much in there, Nico. It's brilliant. A few points I really picked up there about it being ready. I think something Mandy said earlier about someone being ready to transform. And is it, you can do change work and you can play around the edges, and is someone ready to hear something different, see something different? And the second thing I really heard is that, we've all got access to the same source, the source of wisdom and insight and transformation. That thing about changing from within, that transforming from within. Well, if it's coming from that deep, formless place, as I understand it, and I've learnt around this, that we've all got access to that same source. So therefore, whoever's in front of me, if they've got access to the same power source, if you like, they've got the opportunity to experience a transformation. And just knowing that is possible is key to the transformative conversation. I'd be interested in, as we move the conversation on, about what is really involved in that transformative conversation between, let's just say, coach and client. But obviously it can happen in other contexts as well. Just as you said, Nico, around being the catalyst, or it could be just a chance thing one person says. So in Sid Banks's case, a psychologist saying, "You're not insecure, Sid, you just think you're insecure." And obviously that's maybe got changed over the years, 40 years ago, but he heard something of his own accord. The catalyst was just one offhand comment. And as a change worker of some kind, of transformative worker, it's being mindful that what we say, it might not be what we say that achieves the transformation within the person opposite us. It might be something that happens outside of the session. It's not a linear process. Any thoughts there, particularly reflecting what Nico was saying?
I'd like to say something about the catalyst, and I think I loved what Nico was saying. And the catalyst, we can sort of point people, but we're not in control. So the catalyst could be trauma, and the countless people who've had transformation from traumatic situations. And I think you were saying that when we're ready, then it happens. I can remember going along to my the second retreat I went to, and I went along almost with a shopping list of insights that I wanted to get during that weekend. And it just made sense to me to go along and say, right, I'd really like an insight about my finances. I'd love an insight about my relationship, whatever. And because looking back, you just think, oh, that's so interesting. I really sort of thought that was the way you did it. You kind of ordered them in advance. And I wasn't ready for them. And then they just pop up at the strangest of times. But also the insight without content, or the transformation without content. We don't know what's happened. And we don't need to know. We just need to know that we're showing up differently. But yeah, sort of the catalyst can be anything. Just the time's right.
I think that's what intrigues me about, and is the major difference for me between change and transformation. So if I think of change as an application, so, we'll take coaching as an example. So a client comes in, and whatever their problem, you apply the technique and you get the change. And there's a kind of mechanical predictability within that. But with transformation, you have no idea. And it still surprises me now that even this understanding, you have no idea who's going to prick up their ears and who isn't. And it almost seems to be the person that you least expect to get it is the one that does. And I think probably us NLPers are the worst, trying to hold on to the old stuff or analyze. But it's just amazing how it can touch, well, it's, as you say, accessible to everybody. But that's the key to transformation, and the major difference is there's not really, the only predictability is that it will happen at some point, but other than that, you've no idea, because it is personal and unique in every single person. And to coach with that is really just to stand back and observe, just turn them in the right direction and wait, pretty much, isn't it? Just keep talking.
Absolutely. And just like Mandy was saying about it coming from within. And yeah, we all live in our separate realities, but what does that mean to someone new to this? And yeah, the presupposition of NLP, which I still go with, we've got all the resources we need within us to transform. It's not that mechanical linear process where, yeah, okay, you've come in with this problem and I will do this intervention. Any other comments? Sandy?
Frozen moment.
Oh, there it is.
I think I'm back. Sandy, any thoughts on that? Pointing someone in the right direction.
Pointing someone in the right direction, yeah. It's just, I think for me, it's staying in the conversation. The more you stay in that conversation, you just, it's about pointing people in the right direction. I'm not sure if it's the right word, but never mind. In the direction, but yeah, I think showing them, words are really tricky, aren't they? But it's, it's,
but that feeling, that's what what you're describing there. You had a sense of it, it, and maybe maybe you could, other guys, think about just that. Yeah, I've seen a shift there. I think Mandy touched on that. What we've witnessed, and sometimes it's like, I know something's changed there at a deep level, and I'm going to go quiet now. Those moments where we know the person opposite us has had an insight or something, they've felt something, they've had access to something that they haven't had access to before or for a very long time. And it's that newness and that unfamiliarity But from what I've seen, when someone does go quiet and they sit with that, it's letting someone sit with that. And that is a transformation literally happening in the moment.
Yeah.
It's literally permeating every cell of their existence in some way. And that's where, for me, transformation is like, it's an evolution. You know, I do study mind-body science. And yeah, the whole idea of we are the placebo and the remissions that can happen in terms of physical health, but also psychological health, with just that leap of consciousness, as Nico was beautifully describing, just that can happen, that raises everything. And it does affect every part of our being. Well, when something's resonating within every part of your being, no wonder we sometimes struggle to find the words. We're trying to create some kind of form to describe something that's come from the formless. Any thoughts on transformation coming from that formless place, Nico?
Yeah, well, I wanted to touch on the idea of like it comes from the formless, and then we feel it. We feel the shift, and then there's a form. Takes a form in our minds. There's some words that come to us, and if someone asks us, okay, what happened there, we come up with some forms trying to describe a shift, a feeling. And in a way it's a bit like trying to describe colors to a blind person. So how you do that? How do you describe a blind person what a red is, a green is? So when we try to describe a shift or a feeling or the transformation, we are so, like Sandy said, like we're so limited with language, and we say something, and then especially when not necessarily in a coaching situation, but in other one, like if someone has a transformation and then they go around telling people about it, and people like they focus so much on the words, and they're like, okay, so that doesn't make any sense. For example, a good example of this is that, like, I remember maybe like 4 years ago, I was really into reading spiritual books, and I read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And in the beginning of the book, he describes his enlightenment experience, where he woke up one night and he was feeling really down, like really depressed. And he had the thought that I can't live with myself. Like kind of that thought opened up, or simultaneously there happened a huge shift in him that completely transformed his life. So when I was reading that book, I got really, I was focusing so much on the words that I can't live with myself, that they became, I remember I started to repeat them. They became kind of mantra, because I thought, okay, if I just repeat them long enough, I will see the same thing. I will have the same experience. I will have the same shift. And after coming across this understanding and sort of being just lucky enough to have my own kind of mini transformations, whatever you want to call those, insights, I've come to realize that it has nothing to do with the words and everything to do with the, with, like Mandy said, the feeling. The shift is a feeling. And also there's a very clear physical kind of phenomena that seems to happen. And I don't know if I'm able to demonstrate it, but basically it looks like this. So it's just like, and you ask, I think you asked that how do we, what it looks like. I mean, it usually looks like that. There's a physical relaxation, and then a bit of silence, and just maybe a different look in the eyes. Something like you can see there's something, they've seen something. And then you can always ask them, okay, so what happened? What was your insight? Tell me your insight. Whatever. I hope none of us are actually doing that like us. But we can ask that, and they will come up with whatever words that make sense to them in the moment. But it's never in the words, and it's just like Jamie says, the words is just a label that's attached to the inside box that came from the wisdom palace within.
That's lovely. And continuing your point there, it's like the words are inadequate. And what I really heard there is that it's that change in experience, and you experience transformation. And like I was saying before, it permeates every aspect of your being. What I'm curious about when I work with people is that things then keep showing up, that ripple effect through someone's life. And that can be a week later, a month later, because a new situation where an old way of thinking or being would have cropped up. Well, the next opportunity to react in that way as you used to might not be for a while. And that's what I see, is that it continues to permeate. So people aren't even aware of the impact. And that's what I'm trying to find there, is that, something, there's been that shift, but how it shows up in your life, it's going to keep showing up. And if you've had a shift in your level of consciousness, well, the way you see everything is potentially going to be different. And therefore, the way you interact with every situation, we are living in the feeling of our thinking moment to moment. We are having this psychological experience. So therefore, the impact can be, it might not affect every aspect of our life, but there might be some big shifts in our relationship, in our career, in our work, in our relationship to our past and our history and our sense of selves, whatever it is that was maybe holding us back from before. And as we move towards the end of the conversation, it's like, why is someone in front of us? They might not know it, but they are looking to transform an aspect of their life. They just maybe don't know that the transformation is in their thinking and their understanding of where their psychological experience is coming from, rather than maybe coming through the door believing we need to do some specific change work around a particular habit, a trauma, something unhelpful in their life, a relationship that's troubling them. That's the symptom. We're looking right into the form, and pointing someone in the direction of where experience is coming from is, where that deeper transformation is going to come from. Any thoughts on that?
I've got a couple of things, actually. And one is a friend of mine, she's Swedish, and I don't understand Swedish at all. And she did a video recording for Jenny and Rudy Kennard for their Three Principles Movies website. And I watched it and just didn't understand a word she was saying, didn't understand the form, but the feeling was profound. So that was one thing. And the other thing is working with people with learning disabilities who don't have a cognitive way of understanding what on earth I'm talking about. but we'll still have insights and the transformation will still happen. So our teaching doesn't need to be with words. Our teaching, more importantly, is just how we connect. And it comes from that wordless place, the place of no form. And I think we forget that sometimes, that actually just our presence is what's doing it. And we can get caught up in the words, as I am now, probably, and just keep talking. And sometimes it's just like, just stop. Just stop talking. So that was, I just wanted to say those two things, really.
That's lovely. And it's it's a reminder for me. That's when I've got maybe a lot of thinking, or I've had a long day and I've got my next client, and it's like, right, how am I going to turn up here and serve them as best as I can to help them achieve the transformation or whatever they want. And it's like, by turning up and connecting with that person, and just not trying too hard. And that's the beauty of having a transformative conversation. The first thing is connection. Then anything can happen. And it could be just one innocuous question, just chatting to someone, hanging out with someone. I love Robin Charbet, who works exclusively in business. Multinational, big business, teaching the principles to senior executives. He said, we just hang out with our clients. And it can be funny to think whoever we work with, whichever groups, whether it's someone with learning difficulties, it's a high-powered executive, or it's a struggling single, whatever it is, we're just hanging out with them and creating a space for them to have those insights, to experience a shift. And it's nice to know, and I keep reminding myself that, it's not about me putting in the input and this application as you guys were describing it, and this technique is that, letting it just unfold for the person in front of us and building that connection, then some magic can happen that's beyond my thinking, that I could never prepare for. And that's the interesting thing. And as we draw to a close, where to be a transformational coach, to be a transformative coach, I need my grounding. I'm in the process of an evolution of my level of consciousness, and I'm curious to keep exploring. And I'm curious to see how I can continue to transform. And I suppose, the world we're looking at is that there's infinite possibilities for us to continue to transform. And that, for me, working as a coach, I'll just keep plugging away at that, because that can only have a positive impact on the people in my life, not just the person opposite me in a coaching situation, but in all my life, friendships, family, everything I'm doing. And that impact can resonate with those around me. So any closing thoughts from you guys around your own personal transformation and the impact it helps you have?
I feel very much in a limbo state. So I don't know if I am helping anybody else at the moment. But I'm in a sort of in-betweeny state of my transformation. So, I feel I can do all the intellectual stuff.
In transition. And it's being okay with that, I guess, is it?
Yeah, and that is a change in me, is that a few weeks ago I wasn't okay with it at all, in any shape or form. But I am okay with it now. Things have never been so unpredictable for me. Things have never been so out of place, and yet it's all okay.
It's all okay. Other guys, any closing remarks around it just being okay?
Yeah, just being okay with whatever might show up, because you don't know, as it's transformation anyway, you never know what's going to come up anyway. So might as well just accept whatever's going to come your way, in a sense. It's just, and it's knowing that having seen the impact in our lives as well, and it's knowing that it's available for all of us anyway. There's no, I don't have any doubt about this, that anyone on earth anyway anyone can transform at that level, at a very deep level. And there's just no doubt about this. We're all born for insight. So I don't know, we all have that capacity. It's within us anyway. So yeah.
Lovely. Mandy and Nico?
I haven't got much to say except just completely agree with all of you, really, and what Nico was saying about it. We're doing it anyway. It's not like we suddenly choose to have a transformation. We're doing it anyway. That's what being human is all about. We're just constantly evolving and moving, and sometimes it's in big jumps and sometimes it's not. But I think being open to it and accepting it just makes the journey a lot smoother. And it's when kind of ego mind kicks in and tries to hold on to something that seems familiar that we might run into some difficulties. But it's happening anyway. And also just another thing I think in the coaching role is that sometimes we need to mind our own business. We might really want to see somebody else changing, but it's actually not our business, if that makes sense. We are the catalyst, or we just happen to be there. We just happen to be there. So that's it. Thank you.
And Nico?
Yeah, it's just continuing on that thought about, it being automatic, just natural. I mean, for me, that just means that I don't need to do anything. I don't need to seek for it. I don't need to search for it. And that's just, I don't know. There's much more time to do other things than look for a transformation. When you're not looking for when you're not trying to improve yourself or when you're not looking to, when you're not looking for the transformation, you're open for it. And when you're looking for it, it doesn't mean that it won't happen or transformation stop. But it just means that there's a bunch of stuff, in between. Which is only thought. And once we see it through that, we're on that highway of transformation. We're back on the learning curve, and just going wherever we're supposed to be going. We're going there anyway, so we can just relax.
Exactly. Yeah, life is unfolding. That was a really nice way of summing it up, Nico. So I just want to thank all of you for your contributions to this conversation. I'm feeling very connected right now. And that's been an hour of, wow, when I listen back to this and watch it again, I'll probably have some insights myself. It's great to hear everyone's individual perspective and create a shared space where we can share ideas. So, anyone who is watching this out there, feel free to contact any of us through various media that we've posted this on. I look forward to connecting with you guys again very soon. What I will do in 5 seconds is stop recording so we can all say goodbye. But thanks very much. See you again.